What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Michael. Today we're diving into one of the most critical and most often understood areas of Security Plus exam, Domain 5, Governance, Risk, and Compliance. Here's the truth. You can have the best firewall in the world, but if your governance is weak, your security is a house of cards. This domain is about the why and the how of security. It's how we make sure the technical stuff we do actually aligns with the law and business. Let's get into it. First up, for part one, we're going to cover governance and standard operating procedures. So for governance, think of this as the rule book. You start with policies. These are high-level statements for management, like a password policy that says everyone must use multi-factor authentication or MFA. Below policies, we have standards. These are mandatory requirements. If the policy says encrypt data, standard says you must use AES 256. Then we have procedures, the step-by-step how-to guides and guidelines, which are just strongly suggested best practices. One thing you'll definitely see on the exam is personnel management. We're talking about mandatory vacations. This isn't just for burnout, it's to uncover potential fraud while someone else does your job. Job rotation, making sure no one has total control over a critical system for too long. Separation of duties, splitting a high-risk task between two people so one person can't go rogue. So next we're going to cover the risk management process. You can't protect everything perfectly, so you have to prioritize risk as simply threat times vulnerability. You need to know the 4 ways we deal with risk. The first way is avoidance. You just don't do the risky thing. Second is transference. You give the risk to someone else, like buying cybersecurity insurance. The third is mitigation. You lower the risk with a control, like installing intrusion prevention services. And acceptance. The risk is low enough that we'll just deal with it if it happens. And also keep an eye out for quantitative and qualitative risk assessments. The qualitative risk assessment, they rank them in low, medium, and high rankings based on opinion. Then the quantitative uses cold, hard cash. And you have to remember these formulas for the exam. So first we'll start with SLE, single loss expectancy, times ARO, annual rate of occurrence, equals ALE, annual loss expectancy. You'll want to write that down. If a laptop costs $1,000 to replace, that's the SLE, the single loss expectancy, and you lose 5 a year, that's the annual rate of occurrence, ARO. Your ALE, which is the annual loss expectancy, is 5,000. So that's the math that they use. Now let's talk about compliance. This is following the law. If you're into healthcare, you follow HIPAA. If you handle credit cards, you follow PCI-DSS. If you're a public company, it's SOX. To help us stay compliant, we use frameworks. These are blueprints for security. The NIST CSF cybersecurity framework is the gold standard. It identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And then there's the ISO 27001. This is the international standard for managing information security. Think of these as a cheat code to making sure you didn't miss anything important building your security program. And of course, you can do vulnerability assessment to see if you are aligned with compliance with the law. And last, we have domain. In Domain 5, it covers privacy. For example, 2026, data privacy is everything. You need to know the difference between PII, which is personally identifiable information, like your name, social security number, address, or PHI, protected health information, which is just your medical records. We also have roles like data controller, and that's who decides why we collect the data. And the data processor is the person who actually handles it. And understanding who is responsible for these is what is a huge part of the exam and the job. So there's a lot more to Domain 5, which covers governance, risk, compliance, GRC, and that acts as, like I said, a strategic framework for an organization's cybersecurity program by aligning security practices with business goals and legal requirements. And the whole domain really focuses on heavily practices with business goals and legal requirements in mind. So what you trying to accomplish and what's the rules? This domain focuses heavily on governance. So it's really boring using hierarchical documentation such as high-level policies, mandatory standards, and step-by-step procedures that dictate how an organization operates. It also emphasizes personnel management through safety-focused internal controls like mandatory vacations, job rotation, and the separation of duties to prevent fraud. A massive portion of this domain is dedicated to risk management, where professionals identify threats and vulnerabilities and choose to avoid, transfer, mitigate, or accept risks based on quantitative, monetary, or qualitative rank-based assessments. Finally, the domain ensures compliance with industry frameworks like NIST, CSF, or ISO 27001, and legal mandates regarding data privacy, such as HIPAA for health data or PCI-DSS for financial info. Ensuring that sensitive PII and PHI are handled ethically by designated controllers and processors. And that's all for Domain 5 in a nutshell. It's all about the big picture, like while we're learning tech, like how to make moves that are legal, ethical, and smart for the business. So if you're studying for the Security Plus, keep grinding. The domain might feel wordy, but master these concepts is what turns a technician into a leader. And if this video helps you, make sure you smash and like the button, the subscribe button to the channel, and leave a comment below if you have any questions. And we're in this journey together. So I'll see you on the next video. Thanks. Peace.